6, 2022 public hearing for the City of Tampa's Architectural Review Commission. Welcome, everyone. I'm Susan Claus-Smith. I'm the chair of the commission. If you're here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order. The site plan, the elevations, architectural details, and wall sections. The staff will then present their staff report, and we will then ask for public comment. Following your presentation, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as the presentation. When coming up, please state and spell your name clearly if you are here to speak for or against a project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following the public comment, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed, and the only comments which will be allowed after the public hearing is closed will be in response to any questions from the commissioners. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based on the City Ordinance, Chapter 27 of the City Zoning Code, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, the Historic Preservation Development Review, or HPDRC comments, and the testimony given at the public hearing. Please remember that the ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owner agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and/or approvals. Now, if you haven't already done so, please silence your cell phones, and I'll ask my fellow commissioners to introduce themselves, starting on my left.
Brent Taylor, I'm a building contractor.
Shauna Boyd, interior designer.
Dan Myers, architect.
And with us tonight, we have Dennis Fernandez, Elaine Lund, Beverly Jusak, and our city attorney, Kamaria Pettis-Mackel. Oh, I'm sorry. We also need to enter into the record the minutes of March 7th and March 9th, 2022 hearing dates. Can I get a motion to approve those?
Move to approve the meeting minutes from Monday, March 7th and Wednesday, March 9th, 2022.
I second the motion.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dennis Fernandez, Architectural Review and Historic Preservation Manager. Just a couple brief announcements. First of all, I do have the March administrative approvals that we will enter into the record, and I'll provide that to the clerk. Secondly, I did want to announce that today's hearing, the April 6, 2022 hearing, will accommodate all of our caseload for April, so there will not be another hearing in April. Our next hearing cycle will, of course, be in May. With that, I believe we do not have any, let's go ahead and go to the legal counsel for the ex parte communication and disclosure of conflicts of interest.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. Will the Commissioners please state whether or not they have any conflicts of interest regarding any of the items that are listed on the agenda?
I
have none.
Thank you. Additionally, will the Commissioners please state for the record whether or not they've had any ex parte communications regarding any of the items that are on the agenda?
I have not.
None.
Thank you.
With that, we do not have any continuations this evening, so we will move right to the swearing. Anyone in the audience, including the staff, that's going to be presenting this evening or giving testimony, please stand and raise your right hand for the swearing from Ms. Jusak. I do. And with that, we're ready for our first case this evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is Elaine Lund with Historic Preservation staff. The first item on the agenda this evening is application ARC 22-156 at 2702 North Morgan Street, which was formerly 212 East Columbus Drive. This property is located in the Tampa Heights Historic District And the application is for a certificate of appropriateness for new construction of a primary structure with site improvements. At this time, I will move to the photo presentation. You should see in front of you the 1920s sandbar map with the subject property at the center of the site with the background in green at the corner of what was then Michigan Avenue, now Columbus Drive, and North Morgan Street. This property at that time did have a residence on it. You can see here that that is roughly at the center of the Tampa Heights Historic District, about halfway between the north and the south ends. Again, the property shown in green. And the property, again, in green here at the corner of Columbus Drive and North Morgan Street. It's currently vacant. This is looking west into the subject site from Morgan Street. This is looking directly at the house just to the north. This is a contributing structure in the historic district. And you can see the structure that is just to the north of that one there, which is new construction within the district. This property is across Morgan Street on the north side of Columbus Drive. And here we are looking north along Morgan. So the subject site would be to your left. And this view is looking south on Morgan toward Columbus Drive. This photo is looking east along Columbus Drive. You can see the Tampa Heights Elementary School to your right on the south side of Columbus. And then looking west, this is looking toward Florida Avenue along Columbus Drive. And that concludes the photo presentation. So at this time, I'll have the applicant come forward and provide their application.
Hi, my name is Daniel Goritz with my company's IDF Group. I'm the developer for this, or the owner and hopefully the developer of this property. I'm going to go through, hopefully I know how to use this. Okay. So based on the staff report, which I did receive last Thursday, I was able to make all of the revisions that were requested as far as the conditions. I agreed to all of them and worked diligently there to try to complete that for today to show you guys. So I'll go through some of those conditions, but I want to show you the site map here, the site plan. So exactly how the, as far as we know from 1920, I believe there was another sandbar from 1951 showing a structure, a single-family home in that position. So we decided to reposition to 2702 North Morgan again, adding a home, a single-family residence detached in that similar position. Okay, so this is these are the updated elevations and floor plan for the project. This is the updates based on the staff report and the conditions. So you'll see all of the requested updates completed on this. I did try to upload that to Excel, but it was acting up today, possibly due to the recent update. I'm not sure. So I'll keep on working on getting that updated to the record. Do you guys want to go through those items or? Is that part? Okay. I'll come back to that. This is the requested porch section, showing some typical details for the venting. This would be a ridge vent in this case, and we would do the exposed rafters with a beadboard soffit boarding underneath. These are the wall sections that were requested that will be uploaded to the record as well. And now I'll go through quickly. As part of the conditions, doing the scale, we did the scales, there was different scales that you guys had requested. We have updated those on the site plan, or on the elevations and the site plan. It is approved, this is a, the approval is contingent on the special use application that's currently still pending, and I'll touch on that shortly. We've provided, as far as the setback dimensions for the property, I really didn't understand the format of what you guys potentially wanted there. I was fortunate enough to be the builder of 2706, which is the property just north, or the second property north of this site there. So based on that site plan, we were 22 inches above grade. I was able to measure the neighbor's house, who's at 24 inches above grade. And this site plan is calling to be 19 inches above grade, so within a few inches of what's being requested there. Let's go back to that. I don't know if I'll be able to do this correctly. As far as some of the setbacks there, so the house immediately to the north, 2704, North Morgan, has about a 3-foot step back to the stoop, or the steps there, and 8 foot to the columns of the porch. The new construction home at 2706 has a 12-foot setback to the porch, and then 20 feet to the front door and the front elevation. Again, some of the other items that were requested were to label the elevations and the cardinal directions. We've done that. We've removed the gutters as requested. We've provided the soffit detail in the plan. We've updated the windowsills to measure 2 inches on the plan as well, and removed the 4-inch trim below. We've gone through, and I'll show you the a 1/1 window light configuration. We've provided a second window as requested on the north elevation near the front, above the first floor window. We've gone with a historically appropriate door, that being a Craftsman style door as shown here. As far as the porch railing, we've gone ahead and removed that. Being 19 inches above grade, the code does not call to have a railing, so we've gone ahead and removed that. We've provided sections as required, and then I'll go through some of the materials here as well. As part of what I'll be updating, or uploading, I'm sorry, to the record, just a quick sheet which highlights the materials that'll be used. And as part of that, I've just kind of provided some photographs here of the architectural dimensional shingles, the beadboard that'll be used under the, as part of the soffit. It is an exposed rafter, 2x4 rafter. The siding is a lap siding with a 6-inch reveal, so a 1x6, smooth finish, and then it'll be of the cement board, James Hardy brand, with the different trim pieces that they provide, various throughout the plan, so from 2 inches all the way up to 8 inches. Craftsman style door for the front. A full light double door for the rear porch. A 1/1 aluminum window, as requested. Excuse me. This shows just kind of a sample of the porch. This was from the 2706 property, showing some of the common brick, the wood-looking Trex flooring, the 6-inch siding in this case that is a smooth finish. We are doing a different door, of course, as I showed you there. And then we would be doing just kind of a dry wall smooth finish ceiling and just some recessed cans as part of the lighting there. The only other thing I wanted to point out, if it's okay, was just kind of the application currently for the special use. I had requested to reestablish the lot as a single-family detached home to be addressed as 2702 North Morgan Street with a 16-foot front setback and an 8-foot rear setback. That would be consistent with the home at 2704 North Morgan and consistent with some of the Sanborn insurance maps that are available to us from the 1920s and the 1950s. As I mentioned, that was still pending. Right now, it was showing a pending the review of both the ARC, or the approval of the ARC, and also of zoning. The last communication that I have from zoning was with Joel from Thursday, March 3rd, which showed that he had discussed this with Mr. Cotton and found the proposal to be consistent. That-
Actually, take a minute and zoom in on the elevations, front.
Absolutely.
Sides and rear.
Yep.
And then put up your wall section after and walk through all the materials from the roof all the way down to the
Sure,
foundation.
sure. Sorry, it's my first time, so I've.
Can I ask before you go into that, do you have better renditions of this? These look very light, or is it just the focus on the?
We can zoom.
Elm?
It might be the focus a little bit, yeah. I mean, they are black and white, but they are.
Yeah, that's a little better.
Is that a little
Thank you.
better?
Do two at a time.
Okay. Go through some of that.
Describe what's going on from the start of the roof, and talk about your dormer, your roof, your overhangs, everything.
Okay, let me go back to. So again, as presented, some of the items here, you know, we've got the typical front porch. In this case, we did remove the railing, since we're just about 19 inches above grade there, so not required. We would be using a common brick as far as around the stem wall, as well as the columns at the front. We did have some common brick on a column at the rear, which we have removed per the ARC's request. We've gone ahead and also added a window here per the ARC's request. We'd be using an architectural kind of a dimensional shingle on the roof. As I mentioned prior, the siding would be a smooth plank 1x6 siding. We do have an 8-inch, sorry, I'm sorry, 6-inch cornice board as at the top. We would be doing 6 inches between the first and second elevation, and then we would do an 8-inch at the bottom above the stem wall. Let me scoop this up so you can take a peek at. So this is now showing both the north and south elevation. The south elevation would be parallel to Columbus, and the north elevation would obviously be neighboring the 2704 property. A section of the front porch was requested and is being shown here. Again, kind of highlighting the exposed rafter tails. We would be using the beadboard soffit underneath, the common brick columns, and then we would be wrapping the top portion of the column, again with the cement board siding. Okay. And here's a wall section, as requested, again, showing the different building materials along with the exterior siding, exposed rafter tails, the fascia board, and the stem wall. One more time, I'll bring up the site plan here, which I lost. There we go. We've also, as requested, marked the driveway and sidewalk scoring on the site plan. So for now, that'll conclude my, my presentation. I appreciate your patience. More than happy to answer any questions later on.
Thank you. We'll move on to the staff report.
Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. Staff finds that this application is consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines. The applicant did address the conditions that were listed in the staff report, although I do suggest that the commissioners do review the elements that were shown on the elevations and sections to make sure that they were appropriate for the design and the style of this building in the district. I would like to note that, as the applicant mentioned, there is the special use application that is running concurrently with this application for a certificate of appropriateness, and the approval of the CA is contingent upon the approval of the special use. Also, please note that in your packets, there's a letter from the Tampa Heights Civic Association regarding this application. And with that, I'm available for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lund. We'll now go ahead and open up the hearing to public comment. Please remember you have 3 minutes, and if you'd like to come forward, if you could line up on this side of the room, and remember to speak, spell your name as well as your relationship to the project.
Good evening, Steve Michelini, that's M-I-C-H-E-L-I-N-I. I'm here representing an adjacent property owner, Josh Trebby, as well as the Tampa Heights Civic Homeowners Association, both of which have concerns regarding this project. Some of the issues, at first is there's an S1 application pending that dramatically affects whether or not this project can even be built. We had approached the city staff regarding that and asked that this hearing be continued pending the outcome of that. However, the petitioner has the right to go forward if they wish, and they've chosen to go forward. So we still object to this going forward at this point and have specific objections. First of all, this project is trying to take a smaller lot that's approximately 50 by 50, place a single-family home, and also meet construction standards for commercial properties, which is incongruent with the development pattern. Although historically this did exist, however, it was a commercial property which would have had different standards. It's a non-conforming lot, and unless that S1 is approved, it will remain as a non-conforming lot with an S1 approval. There is a speculation here that they could put a house in there. There's a site plan that has the adjacent properties, so you only have one part of this deal of the proposal is showing. The other part that's subject to the S1 as well is not shown. In terms of the final disposition of design, you can design what you wish, but if you can't build it, and we've implored the staff to step in on this, but again, it's the right of the applicant to go forward, but how can you design something that may or may not be built? So respectfully, we're requesting that any approval be contingent upon an S1 approval. and we'll also be objecting at that stage as well. We filed letters, the homeowner association as well as adjacent property owner have filed letters of objection. The design itself, it may be compatible. However, the setbacks that they're showing, and I've been before you before, they don't take into account the fact that this is only a 50-foot wide, deep lot. So what are they gonna do? It is a difficult site to work with, and we're respectfully requesting that you not approve this, that it be held back pending the outcome of the S1. In addition to that, the homeowner association has listed a letter in your packet of objection, and I'm here to indicate on their behalf that they remain objecting to that, as well as the property owner with Josh Trebby. So I respectfully request that you not move forward with this, deny this at this point, and request that you not hear this any further. But anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Michelini. Any others wish to come forward, speak for or against the project? Seeing no one else, we'll go ahead and close that portion of the hearing, and we will begin to ask questions. I'll start on my left. This is for the applicant, so you'll want to come up. Thank you.
Could you put your site plan up first?
Absolutely.
So with the current situation, what is the front and rear setback?
The front setback would be 16, and the rear setback would be 8.
And staff, is that in conforming with the current zoning?
Commissioners, the purpose of the special use application is to set specific setbacks for a residential use on the property. I do not have the schedule of the that says what the setback should be in front of me this evening. However, I believe if it were a commercial property, then the setbacks would be obviously very different than they would be for a residential use.
So I'll go back to the applicant. The neighbors, what are the front and rear setbacks?
The neighbor
Directly adjacent to
immediately to the north is sitting at, pull that back up. He is also at 16 feet. That's the attributing structure. And the property to the north of that, which is the new construction, is at 20.
Are those lots the same depth?
Are they the same? I'm sorry?
Depth?
They are not. Well, I'm sorry. The 2704, yes. 2706, no.
Okay.
So the attributing structure lot is the same.
All right.
Ultimately, this home would be very similar in size and scale and setbacks to the attributing structure immediately to the north.
Okay. Somebody have a question?
You said that the rear setback is 16 feet, but on your plan that's up right now, it looks like it says 8.
No,
What do
the
you?
front setback was 16 feet, the rear is 8.
I think the question though was the rear setback, or was your?
Well, I asked for both, but
Okay,
I was also asking about the neighbors, if the lots were the same.
okay.
He does not, you do not have, let me clarify to make sure I understand this right. You don't have that dimension with you tonight of what that rear setback would be for the neighbors.
He's at 5 feet.
Okay. All right. The elevation now. The front elevation, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Taylor, I did want to pull up the CI zoning setbacks for, under Muni Code. The front setback under CI is 10 feet, The sides are 0 and the rear is 10.
Thank you. What is the material that's going to be used for the front steps?
That is going to be concrete as part of the stem wall. It could be wood if need be. That's what we actually did at 2706, but as of now, it would be concrete.
What is the design of that going to be? I just don't see anything here to show us the width.
Of the steps?
Yeah.
Let me see if it's provided in the side section. I apologize. I do not have that section, but I could provide that later.
Okay. Now, I'd like to see a wall detail with the window section. So my first question is on the eave. Can you clarify for us what that distance is going to be? That
24
dimension?
inches.
It is going to be 24. Just looks shorter there.
These, I was not able to get to that. These are not to scale yet. It was requested. Again, we received these comments on Thursday, so I did the best I could for today, addressing, I think, 18 out of the 20 points.
Right. So could you take the window section and show us what your plan is for the window installation?
I do apologize. I wouldn't be able to speak to that. I'd have to get the contractor, would probably be a little bit better to speak to that. I'll do my best, but I don't want to say something that's incorrect.
You mentioned you're going to use a 2-inch sill. I guess my question is, are you going to set the window back to create the 2-inch sill, or are you just going to build a 2-inch sill?
We would build the 2-inch sill out. So we have the trim top and sides, and then we have the 2-inch sill that's also made out of the cement board that projects out from the siding and from the window.
So is your plan to install these windows like a typical new construction, where they're flush mount?
These, if I'm not mistaken, these windows would be flush mount. A nail-thin flush mount.
Are you open to a different design that would not be?
Sure, we would be open to it.
It does.
Did you have in that, you had shown a view of the porch. Do you have any other images that go to intent for the design elements that we're speaking about right now?
I've got a picture of the other property that we had developed, so I'll go to that. Just to my knowledge and understanding, the windows, typically on these homes are it could be a nail thin or it could sit, within the cavity there. So it would be easy to order the appropriate window and set it back if that is something that the ARC would like to see. So as it's shown here on the.
And the intent is masonry at the first level and wood frame at the second level, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So let me grab that section.
I've only got one other question that's regarding
sorry.
to the trim boards. I noticed on your material list, it was showing a 4/4 board.
So let me go back to that here.
And the reason I'm asking is, are you planning on using a 4/4 or a 5/4?
So these are, zoom out here. This kind of shows what's available to us. starting with the lap siding, the trim boards, and then the vertical siding are just the larger sheet panels. So the dimensions are here in the sense that, where are we at? It actually is a little small, I apologize. Can you guys see that?
So to clarify, your plan is to use the 4-quarter trim board that's actually 3/4 of an inch thick.
Oh, correct. Yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry about that. Yeah, the true size would be 3.5, which is what's available.
I'm actually asking about the thickness of it.
Oh, the
They,
thickness
they
of it?
actually make a 5/4 that's 1 inch thick that just gives a better shadow line around the windows.
Okay. We would have to visit that and just see if it's available to us. I mean, the thickness here showing the 3/4, but if a 1 inch was available, we wouldn't object to that.
Commissioner Boyd?
Can you please, on your site plan, show where you're proposing fencing? And do you have a design, for the fence?
I did not propose a fence on the site plan. I will bring it back up. And we have not, we do not have a proposal on a type of fence at this time.
So is on the north side of the, property, is there that 4-foot-high wood fence existing?
Yep, there's an existing fence on the north side, nothing on the south side or west side at the rear.
Can you show us where your, equipment would be located, your, air conditioning and meters?
Currently, right now, I would not be able to tell you the meter, but we are signaling the AC unit right here at the rear of the property.
And how do you plan to, shield that from the street view?
We could visit a fence, fencing, possibly fencing the entire property. It wasn't something that we had marked on the site plan, but we are more than happy to, fence in the property and show the appropriate, a fence that's approved by the ARC.
And then you had, on your front elevation, can you just confirm the material of the top portion of your columns?
It would be the cement board. It would be dressed in the cement board. So it's a 4x4 post dressed in the cement board.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Myers?
Is it appropriate now for me to ask what our responsibility is here? No, we just have to ask him that. Okay, just questions for him. I have no questions for the applicant, thank you.
Thank you.
Can you go back to the porch column, the brick? You'd mentioned common brick. Do you have an image for what it would actually look like once it's in
Yes,
place?
I do. It is a small cutout though, so I apologize, but let me find that here. No. So many little pages. There we go. Sorry about that.
So you intend to install it so that it has the large mortar joints?
Correct.
Okay. And then you will have concrete caps on the columns as well?
We would do concrete caps, correct.
Okay. Did you show us hardware or lighting intent for this project?
Hardware as far as for like door handles, is that?
Yes, just
I
from
could-
the exterior.
Yep, I do have that. As far as the lighting, which is something we did in the other property, 2 houses up, we just did a smooth finish stucco and then, did the recessed lighting there. Just kind of kept it clean. It's not visible from the street, but it does provide ample lighting for the home. And then just a basic handle set front and rear.
In terms of your site plan where you have your outdoor air units located at the rear, how do you intend on screening that if you're not going to use a fence?
I think we'll be visiting a fence at this point, so
Okay.
we'll,
All right.
we probably would be the best for the property.
Then I have a question overall for the design. Was there any consideration for a porch that wrapped the corner? Traditionally, when you're on a corner lot, especially one with some prominence, this faces the elementary school, which is a very cultural icon, right? It's been in this neighborhood for a long time, and it's just this amenity that this property owner's gonna have. And was consideration made for looking at a design that incorporated a wraparound corner?
We
porch
did,
element?
we did consider doing a wraparound porch. Unfortunately, the lot is, it is smaller as it was, designed from prior. So it would constrain us with any sort of living space on the first floor. The home is, it is a smaller home. I mean, the objective of this home is to provide, really a kind of, go at the housing shortage that we're experiencing right now and provide some affordable housing. But unfortunately, being on the corner there, we did not see how we could add a porch that wrapped around the corner, at least to the halfway mark. It wouldn't leave any living space on the first floor.
Okay. I have a question for staff. With the special use, do they then, if they get approval, do they have to then comply with the RS-50 restrictions for setbacks for the property?
Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. No, the special use application calls out specific setbacks that are consistent with what's shown on this application.
So the applicant decided what those setbacks were?
Yes.
Okay.
I've got a quick question.
Go ahead.
You mentioned a fence around the mechanicals. For clarity, are you just meaning a fence around the AC unit, or are you now visiting a fence around the property?
I think it would make more sense to fence in the property, so we would do I believe it's a 3-foot fence at the front, and then we would carry it up to the 6-foot privacy fence.
So staff, my question is, what are those height restrictions on?
Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. So, Commissioners, the fence is not on the site plan. So if you want to make a condition, if the board so chooses to approve the certificate of appropriateness, you could certainly make a condition that the applicant work with staff to address the fence, but that's not on the site plan right now.
If I could just add to the discussion on the fence, if that were proposed to the staff, which it is a delegated staff review function, there is, one element which I want you to recall, and that's that in the Tampa Heights Historic District, for fences that face a street or a corner, the 6-foot portion of the fence must terminate at the rear of the property, and then extending towards the front street, it has a maximum height of 3 feet if it's opaque and 4 feet if it's transparent. So that 6-foot run couldn't extend along the south side of the property beyond the rear yard.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
The only thing I would say is, we're definitely open to adding a fence. I think it's something that most homeowners would like to have, at move-in. Given that code requirement, we would still provide at that point a screening at the AC unit to kind of hide the visibility if that was still going to be an issue. At 3 feet, a lot of times these air handlers or the condensers are maybe 4 feet. So we could still provide a screening there. I have no other rebuttals for that. Like I said, I had addressed most of the items that the staff had provided on their report. I don't know if I can provide any sort of rebuttal towards the gentleman that had stepped up about the special use. I don't know if this is the appropriate forum for that, but ultimately, as I was going through the special use, I think I just want everybody to keep in mind that I'm only trying to return what was existing at one point in historical. That lot has been, at least for the last 10 years, vacant. I'm not really sure prior. To my knowledge and understanding, there's never been any sort of commercial structure that was built on that. So once the single-family residence that was there was demolished, it's just been a vacant lot that unfortunately does provide some problems for the area. So I believe that the best use for this lot, given that it is a smaller non-conforming lot, but it was, existing there from prior, would be a smaller single-family residence, just like this, and that would be very consistent and similar, again, in both size, scale, and setback to the property immediately to the north. That would be it.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing and we'll discuss the case. Any thoughts? Anything that we should discuss?
I'm sorry, sir, could you put the elevations back up, please?
I lost him walking 3 feet away. Hold on a second.
In the meantime, I'd like to ask, we are only taking action on a certificate of appropriateness if the special use permit is approved. Is that correct, staff?
Kamaria Pettis-Malcolm from the City Attorney's Office, your purview is to determine whether or not the design as presented by the applicant meets the Tampa Heights design guidelines. And if you do find that it meets the Tampa Heights design guidelines and has satisfied the conditions that staff addressed, you have to make a condition that the special use application be approved in order for the certificate of appropriateness to be granted.
Thank you.
So with that said, it's a corner lot. And that one side just, I don't know, just doesn't seem to fit.
I asked the question about the SU, the special use, and the setback relationship because of that. I found it odd that if you have the opportunity to pull that closer and give more land back to the ultimate owner for private use, then why not move that forward and then use the corner to your advantage in terms of form and all of that, and then give more land back to private use. I think it's very odd. I think when you look at the Sanborn, the historic nature of the massing and forms along Columbus, and that structure at that time in the 1929, I believe it is, Sanborn, it does have more of that relationship to the corner. And I would ask that the applicant reconsider engaging the corner more.
That did occur to me as well. But do they not need to have the parking spaces? So they can't push it?
It's not, the
not-
parking's to
it's the
the
other corner.
side,
Right.
facing the other.
So if they
corner.
expand toward, are they allowed then to expand toward the street? And then, because they're only 10 feet back
Based
from the
on the
property
SU,
line.
they are the one
okay.
asking for,
He can set it.
Okay,
the way it sits now, the side setbacks are 0
For a CI.
for a CI. I mean.
It's
Right. But it's,
zoning now.
okay,
But for special use, when the applicants put a special use application in, they ask for the setbacks that they
So-
want.
In my opinion, there's a missed opportunity here.
Oh.
And I agree.
As do I.
Kamaria Pettis-Malcolm from the City Attorney's Office. So I hear the discussion about the special use, keep in mind that that's going through a separate process.
No, I'm
Okay,
discussing the
okay.
design right now.
Okay.
And what I'm saying is I think there's an opportunity here, if they have to go through special use regardless, there's an opportunity here for a better design
Agreed.
that fits in with the Tampa Heights guidelines, as well as what historically was there on the Sanborn map.
Mhm. And also, I'd like to go, now I'm going to go back to the elevations again, if I could, please. It seems to me that having the hip roof, repeating the hip roof over the porch makes it very tall, and then it makes the windows very short on the second floor. And that if that became a simple shed roof, which really fits with the framed vernacular that is the rest of the house, that it allows an opportunity for those windows to get a little, for the sill to drop a little bit. And then in conjunction with that, the brick piers at the porch, while they might be found on a framed vernacular, frequently you would get just a regular column, whether it be a 4x4 column or a round column, and that returns a certain amount of space to the porch, which seems to me to be a good idea.
I don't have as much problem with the brick wrap on the columns. I agree with the roof type on the porch, especially if he reconsiders a corner condition, because it will afford something back to the owners with the second floor amenities. But the brick piers, the only thing I have concerns with the brick is the brick itself. The massive mortar joints is just inconsistent with what we see historically in these districts. So I just don't think that that's appropriate. And there was something else we were looking at.
While you're thinking, let me say, if the porch came around and at least covered the window, the first window on that south elevation,
Yeah.
then, because that's gonna get a lot of afternoon, it's a good window to have shaded.
And the rear porch could use a little detail. Just kind of tucked right there in the corner.
Mhm.
Well, that's a difficult thing, because you know this site is not very deep, and it's 8 feet from the rear property line right now. That's just a difficult condition to deal with, because you're trying to give as much area to the homeowner as possible.
Exterior area.
You're
Yeah.
trying to give as much area,
Well,
livable
area.
area, because like the second floor hovers over that rear
Mhm.
porch.
Oh, yeah.
So those can be difficult little things to detail, and sometimes simplicity is best. And I think the removal of the brick from the rear porch was the right move, and that was a staff comment that he took to heart. So I'm really much more concerned about the presence of the mass to the corner condition and its historic precedent, its historic ghost, I guess.
I agree.
Any other comments? I did have one more thing, and now I remember what it was. In regards to the porch, the intent for lighting was just recessed lighting. I think if there could be some reconsideration of looking at some historically appropriate, more historically appropriate fixtures, at least from an aesthetic perspective, in addition to the cans, that would offer something back as well, in terms of the character. Any other comments or concerns? Does anyone want to entertain a motion? Oh,
you
okay.
feel that way, you can ask them to continue, so you can continue to work on the design.
Are we good?
I was just presented with some information, so I'm not sure I had enough time to digest it.
Well, if you wanna talk about it more, we can, I can kinda show you how, Scott, I want you to rush to a conclusion.
Sure.
If you can just give me a moment.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you continue, we would put you on July 11th. Because they're gonna move towards a motion. So if they move towards a motion to deny, you have other problems then. So I don't know, this SU issue might work itself out by then, but, we're full in May and full in June already, so this is the first opportunity to come back.
Okay.
So
What you're saying is with the denial, then you have to wait an entire year?
you have to wait an entire year unless the design is determined to be substantially different to come back to the board. Presuming DS as special use.
Of course, at this point, given the issues that they've brought up now, I can't respond to, because there was definitely some issues with the zoning there and the setbacks, which is why we went with that.
Yeah, you can't respond to that unless they open up the public hearing. That's kind of what the situation is. You could go for a vote and see what they say, or you can continue and kind of continue to work on it.
Well, that's it. I mean, there's really not much I can do. It would be a substantial change.
I would recommend that you continue. If I was in your shoes, I would continue. It just kind of pushes it back a little bit, gives you some time to work through these issues. But, ultimately, you're entitled to an up or down vote.
Okay. I genuinely don't know what to do. Okay. I'm sorry, the gentleman was just explaining to me kind of the process that if there's a denial, there has to be a substantial change, or if I continue, I can revise some of the planning and come back in July, and I guess that's a big decision to make, so I wasn't quite sure what to do with that. Listening to some of your comments, I know that we went through this planning a lot, so I guess I'm gonna let you guys vote and we'll kind of go from there. I hate to make that decision so rash, but okay.
Okay.
I move to deny the certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 22-156 for the property located at 212 East Columbus Drive, because based upon the finding of fact,
The property is located at
I got the
2702
wrong one?
2702 North Morgan Street.
Our documents say 212 East Columbus Drive on the report.
Just point of clarification, it went through an address change. I would use
Okay.
how it is written on the agenda. 'Cause
Sorry, we reference the staff report usually when
Yeah,
we do these.
just
sorry.
if you would reference it, it was,
Okay.
came in a little bit out of order.
Move to deny a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 22-156 for the property located at 2702 North Morgan Street, because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is inconsistent with the orientation and site coverage and massing design guidelines of the, within the Tampa Heights design guidelines of the city of Tampa. Oh, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself, didn't I?
Here, a second.
I second.
All in favor, please state aye and raise your hand indicating so. Aye.
Aye.
Seeing all have agreed, so the motion carries.
Madam Clerk, Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. The next two applicants were not sworn. Can we do a new swearing, please?
The second item on the agenda this evening is case ARC 22-181 for the property located at 405 East Idlewild Avenue in the Seminole Heights Historic District. This application is for, there is a variance request and additionally a certificate of appropriateness for new construction for an addition with site improvements. I will move now to the photo presentation. This is the 1920s sandbar map showing the subject site in green on the south side of Idlewild Avenue and between Branch and Central Avenues. The red line shown on this map is the local historic district boundary. This is the map of the Seminole Heights Historic District, again with the local district shown in red and the National Historic District shown in blue. With the subject site in green there toward the north end of the historic districts. And here we have the present-day aerial map with the site outlined in green, again on the south side of Idlewild Avenue. This is the front or the north side of the subject site. This is the east side. And then this is the west side of the property. And this is looking at the rear of the subject house. This is the property just to the east, 407 Idlewild. And this is the house to the west at 403 Idlewild. And now we're looking directly across the street to the property on the north side of the street. And here we have a view looking east towards Central Avenue. And finally, a view looking west towards Branch. And that concludes the photo presentation. So at this time, I'll ask the applicant to present the request.
And this is Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. They're presenting the variance first, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. My name is Alan Dobbs, 5502 North Cherokee Avenue. My client is here tonight in case you don't need to ask him any questions, but basically he and his wife, they approached me. They're a young growing family, and they want to, the program is basically they have an inadequate kitchen that's part of an add-on years ago. They want to add a laundry utility room, master suite. There's sort of a side entry currently, so we want to keep that, and that will become part of the transition to the new addition to the rear. And then also a rear porch. And I mentioned this program because this goes to part of the hardship criteria, and reasonable use, because what they're doing is very reasonable. I've done a lot of work in Seminole Heights, and just about all the projects involve adding a master suite to an existing 2-bedroom bungalow, because you just can't accommodate a growing family in a small house. Unfortunately, this property is closer than most of the properties to its side property line. Right here on the I think it's called Wolf or Elmo, if we can go to that. Oh, do I need to switch something? Oh, there it goes, okay. So this is the west side of the property. The building right now is 6 feet from the property line, and this bump out right here is about 2 feet from the property line. So if we look at the survey in a little more detail, this is 6 feet up here, and this is where the bump out is, and we're actually going to kind of keep something similar to the bump out, but we're basically going to double what the existing setback is. So that's why we're asking for a reduction from 7 feet to 4 feet. And then further back, you know, where we're going to add the porch, it's going to be 6 feet. So this site plan shows it a little bit better. Again, we have 6 feet here. And then we're a little over 4 feet here. It's actually 4 foot 2 1/4. And then 6 feet 2 1/4 for the rear porch. So basically the rear porch aligns here. We're keeping this bump out, but we're doing a side facing gable, which is typically more in keeping with the patterns of the neighborhood. The existing bump out, you can see it's a shed with the reduced roof height. And then over on the other side, forgot to mention, this sort of steps in, and that's why we're doing the side entry here with this. And I know that's in part of the variance, but I felt it important to kind of understand the scope of the project. So, and I think I need to maybe show the floor plan a little bit too to help justify why there's not really an easy alternative to getting a variance. So I think you can see it's slightly shaded. See if I can maybe zoom in a little bit. So right now there's this utility porch, I'm calling it, off the back, and then the kitchen is right here, and it kind of bumps out to the side. And there's only one door right now. And then this is kind of an odd bedroom. There's been like multiple additions. I think this was the first addition, and then this was added, and then this was added. And you'll see in the certificate of appropriateness part of this presentation that how that kind of looks. But anyway, so to add onto this house, we're fortunate that we have a very deep lot, so we didn't need to go up on this house. We could go back. But since we're 6 feet from the property line here, we wanted to maintain that setback for the addition, not go any closer, but not increase it either. But then you can see the kitchen. It's a fairly modest kitchen, but it's much more of a functional layout that has sort of a small eat-in area in the center, you know, and then you have the main appliances there. So that's why we're still bumping out, but we're only bumping out a couple feet. So that kind of gives you an idea of the reasons for the variance. I can go through the 6 hardship criteria, and then we can have some discussion if y'all have any questions relating to this variance. So the first one is the alleged hardships or practical difficulties are unique and singular. Well, as I mentioned before, you know, what's unique about this house is its location on the property, being closer to the west property line than any other properties. We have the driveway on the other side, so you know, that kind of restricts us from adding on to that side. The second one, hardship criteria relates to it not being, the difficulty is not the result or actions of the applicant. Well, obviously that's not the case because this is an existing condition. The variance, if granted, will not substantially interfere with the health, safety, and welfare of others whose property would be affected by the allowance of this variance. Well, that's the property owner to the west is most directly affected by this. They are fine with it, obviously, otherwise they would have sent in a letter or be here to oppose it. And also what we're proposing is less than what it is currently. The fourth one is that it's in harmony and serves the general intent and purpose of this chapter, which is chapter 27 in the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. Basically, as I mentioned, it allows an existing single-family residence to be modified for reasonable use within unique design constraints, or considering unique design constraints. The fifth hardship criteria relates to substantial justice being done. I'm just going to read a portion of it. The variance will allow additional living area consistent with surrounding homes in the area. Similar homes of this size in the area are not this close to their respective property lines and are able to accommodate this type of addition without a variance. And the last hardship criteria really relates to sort of the historic patterns of development, and that's consistent with the design standards. So again, the proposed addition meets all the requirements of the Seminole Heights Design Guidelines and the Secretary of Interior standards for modification to a contributing structure in a historic district. So that's a summary of the my response to the 6 hardship criteria. And so with that, that concludes my the variance portion of this presentation.
Thank you. I do believe we still do have public comment during the variance.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and open this to public comment because there's no staff report associated with the variance. So if there's anyone here for or against this project who would like to come up and speak, please do so now. Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and close that, and we will ask questions, starting on my right. Commissioner Myers.
Mr. Dobbs, I hate to ask people to do math right, right now, but however, you are actually reducing the amount that the building that it goes into the side yard, and it's this bump out, which is relatively small in any case. So, assuming that that the building is at 6 feet, right? So the bump out is 2 feet and then it's 4 feet. Can you tell us what that dimension is in terms of,
Yeah,
square
I
foot?
hope you weren't going to ask me to calculate the area of what's existing, but yeah. So basically, the survey that I have is I didn't have a CAD file, but I brought it into AutoCAD and scaled it.
Mhm.
So the existing house is actually 6 foot 2 1/4 to the property line, and that's on your site plans, that dimension. So the porch, so that's what we're basically vesting that as an existing condition. The porch portion, as I showed on the survey, according to the survey, is 2.1 feet, and we're reducing that. We're increasing that to 4 feet 2 1/4 inches, which is basically we're just bumping out 2 feet, from the house, and that's what that works out to be.
Mhm.
And then the porch on the back, it's all open, by the way, except for the columns, obviously, and that's something I'll address later. It's not a screen porch, it's gonna be an open porch. So it sort of reduces the impact on the neighbor. So that one's 6 foot 2 1/4 to that, just like the structure in the front side.
So in the existing, if I'm reading this right, so the existing residence has it goes 4 feet into this 6 foot 2 1/4 side yard over a distance of 10 feet, right? So it's like 40 feet, 40
Sure.
square feet.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
And
I
you're
see what
reducing that from 40 square feet to,
Okay, so the area, so it would be 2 feet by
20 square
14
feet.
feet, 28 square feet,
Okay, so you're reducing it from 40 to 28 square feet.
yes. The other thing I forgot to mention too is there's a provision in Chapter 27. It used to be called an administrative variance, but now it's called a design exception that allows you to reduce setbacks. I think it's up to 10% administratively. You still have to do the public notice and everything. So I just want to point that out, that, most of this is within the 6 feet. It's just that small portion,
Mhm.
for the kitchen where we're bumping out.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions.
I have no questions.
I have a question for staff, probably legal. Even though the variance request is written where a portion of it is breaking out 7 feet to 6 feet, and another portion 7 feet to 4, by granting 4 feet even for that small bump out, does it not indeed grant 4 feet for the entire property along that side?
Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. So as Mr. Dobbs placed, you're approving with the variance request a site plan.
Right.
And that site plan delegates where the 4-foot variance request, the variance setback will be, and where the 6-foot setback will be.
The
So
site plan does, but the description in the staff report
I
request.
understand the concern, but you're approving a site plan specific request.
Okay,
So what the words that you're saying relates to the site plan that the agent is presenting before the board.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, go ahead and close and you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Just to
Okay.
follow up on the point, the question you just asked, yeah, if we did any modification to this building in the future, it would have to come back before this board. So we would have to go through this process again. So it's not like we can just decide to bump out other parts of the building to that 4 feet. So,
Okay,
and that's it, sorry.
all right, that's it. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing and we'll discuss the case. Any concerns, discussion points?
With variance requests with existing conditions, I think we view differently than with a new construction. I especially appreciate that we're reducing sort of the request by going from 4 feet to 2 feet, protruding from the 6-foot setback area. I think it's really modest, it's far from the street. I don't think that this request is unreasonable.
Very good.
I also agree.
What triggered this was the addition.
Right.
If they don't ask for addition, they're still over the setback. So,
Anyone like to entertain a motion?
I move that the variance request for case ARC 22-181 for the property located at 405 East Idlewild Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at this public hearing for a west side yard setback from 7 feet to 6 feet with 24-inch encroachment for eaves and gutters, and a west side yard setback from 7 feet to 4 feet with 24-inch encroachment for eaves and gutters to replace portion of existing. Based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 hardship criteria set forth in section 24-114D of the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances for granting variances as stated, and the evidence provided in this public hearing, specifically that the location and current bump out of the kitchen areas creates unique design constraints, and the addition will not encroach any further than the existing structure. The existing bump out of the kitchen area is 2 feet closer, in fact, to the property line than the proposed replacement.
I have a second.
I second.
All in favor, please state aye and indicate so by raising your hand.
Aye.
Motion carries. So you will have 30 minutes now for the certificate of appropriateness.
Okay, thanks. I want to thank Historic Preservation staff for this new format. I think I really appreciate the time, because then you can focus on the variance, and it allows me to go back and not have to confuse the two, but so thank you. So I am going to start, I already mentioned the program for this project. So what I'm going to do is go around the building and just kind of talk about some of the details to help inform you on, when we get into the drawings, why we're doing certain things. So this is the drawing I had shown before. So this is the part that's going to go away. There's some vertical beadboard siding on the gable end. It's kind of a unique detail. There's a closer up shot later on. The siding is sort of a drop lap siding. The window casing and trim is very typical of Seminole Heights. It's all 1/1 windows. Exposed rafter tails. Unfortunately, a lot of roofers like using these deeper drip edges, so it kind of conceals part of the rafters. But this chimney, my client doesn't want to remove it because they're concerned about what's underneath it. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a new roof on as part of this project. So we're going to remove, oops, a little bit off here. We're going to take it down to the roof deck when we put a new roof on. It was really hard to tell we have for foundation piers, but it's this typical brick piers. And they've obviously had a lot of rodent problems with a lot of the trees around there. That's the existing air conditioning unit that's gonna remain. This is just a little closer up detail. You can kind of see the siding and that addition that's gonna be removed. That's a small window to the kitchen. So this is we're kind of working our way around the building. So this is looking at that bump out on the other side. That's that rear screened utility porch. And you can begin to see some of the multiple roof lines here on the back, but all of this and even this gable right here, that's all part of what's gonna be removed and replaced. This gives you a little better view. It gets really interesting when this sort of turns the corner, which you'll see in the other pictures. And obviously that wood deck here would go away. So you'll see on the site plan that the driveway is going to come all the way back to basically where the building bumps out right here. This area here has vertical beadboard, so we're going to either keep it or recreate that detail and put a side entry door in the middle. But you can begin to see some of the odd things with the roof. This actually is at a 45 and slopes up. And then that same area looking back the other way, that's a little door that goes to a little back porch area. You get a little closer up view of the siding, vertical siding there. This picture is just kind of to show the front and some of the eave details in a little more detail. Most of the original soffit material is beadboard, but there's a few areas where it's been replaced with 1x6, but everything that we do is going to be beadboard to match the existing. And we have a few brackets on the house. These brackets are actually very simple knee braces, and you know, again, you can kind of see the rafter tails and the eave detail. The front porch, the left side of the front porch is enclosed, but you can see it has a similar siding and window details. Okay. All right. So, so one of the issues with the site, looking at the site issues first, is their flared apron is actually in pretty good shape, so we're going to keep that, but we're going to redo the ribbons up to this point, and this point is established by this point back here, which is the edge of where that recessed area is for the side entry. So Transportation had a comment we needed to provide a parking pad for 2 vehicles, so that's what's determining the size of that, and then from there forward, it's the ribbons. Over on this side is where the existing air conditioning unit is. With the staff comments, I added, my clients don't really have a fence, and they aren't really intending on doing a fence on this side, so it's just podocarpus hedge screening the air conditioning unit. Here you can see where we bump out, and we have a side-facing gable. We bump out over on this side as well with the side-facing gable, which actually is supported by brackets, which you'll see on the elevations. And then this is the porch, and then they're probably going to do some sort of patio with a fire pit or something here. There's an existing shed that was done by a company called Historic Shed that is very nicely done. He actually uses that as his office. And the site goes way back. One of the comments from land development was, we need to show the whole site, but I couldn't show the whole site. So there's just nothing back there except a concrete pad. And, okay, so on the, I already talked a little bit about, you know, the existing plan, but to show the new plan, and again, I think the plan sort of helps inform us as far as window locations and spacing and rhythm and things like that, and also areas where we're bumping out, reasons for that. So obviously we already talked about that with the kitchen. What we struggled with most was the placement of these 2 windows. Obviously we didn't want to have any windows, and we didn't want to have one small window in the center because that doesn't look good from a design standpoint. Also, it didn't work functionally for the kitchen. So the only option was to have these two small ones on either side of the range, and you'll see those in the elevation. But that's not uncommon in Seminole Heights and some of the historic districts to sort of have that asymmetry. You know, it's way back away from the public realm, so it's not really, so it's more of a function sort of giving way to form there. And then over on the side here, you can see we have some full width steps that go up to a recessed entry, and then you go in, so that is ideal for a laundry utility room, mud room. And then from there you go on into the house, and then this is where we're adding on a master suite with the standard, you know, walk-in closet and master bath. And again, the way these were laid out sort of dictated, you know, how the windows are laid out in the elevations. The porch was fairly wide, or in both, actually wide and deep. So rather than doing one large column on the corner, we decided to do two smaller columns. And those are just simple box columns with some detail at the top and the bottom. So on the elevations, on the front, there's really not much change on the front other than you see these areas, but on here it's the roof and this wall. On this side it's just the bracket and this roof, but they're way back. I tried screening it, but it doesn't look like it's that screened. So this is the driveway side of the house. I like to call it the public side of the house. You sort of have your public side where you have the driveway and kitchen usually, but this house is opposite, which is a little bit unusual. But, and that also was a little tricky working off the floor plan when you enter one side from the driveway, but your kitchen's on the other side. But basically all of this inappropriate multiple additions come off the back. And then we, I'm sorry, right here, this shows the addition sort of dashed in. And then, so there we have the vertical bead board, we have the single 1/1 windows, and then we have a bracketed gable roof. The gable end will have that vertical bead board to match the front gable. And then on the foundation, we're gonna express the piers and then have the foundation screen. I don't have details of the foundation screen enclosure. You know, hopefully we can work that out with staff. This house is like a lot in Seminole Heights. We don't have much clearance here, so it's always a little tricky if you try and do a framed lattice enclosure. So you have to use a fairly thin frame. For the rear, this was a really hard elevation to draw, but because the roofs, there's so many roofs going on, but the dashed lines sort of show where the addition is going. And then, so on the rear, you know, we have the porch here. You know, we have an express beam with a drip cap that matches the drip cap on the windows. We have these 8x8 square columns. They're actually a kiln-dried, pressure-treated manufactured column, and they're great. I use them on a lot of projects in Seminole Heights. And then you can kind of see the bump out there. All the siding matches the existing, the little gable end detail we're gonna match. We put brackets here on the corners because to pick up on the front of the house, but they don't have any other brackets higher up on the gable. And then the other elevation, this is the side where we're got the variance. So the fireplace, we're just removing the top part of it, but it will still remain. Basically nothing from here forward. This little drop down area and all this is going to be removed, and you can kind of see the new outline there. And then, so these are the windows that I was talking about. They're sort of off-center. I had indicated on the plan the gas water heater. I didn't show it on the elevation, so if anything, it helps maybe balance that a little bit. But these will just be small casement windows. And then, again, the porch pretty much is the same on the side as it is from the rear. And then the master bedroom, that's the small window in the bathroom. I didn't mention the corner boards. We're going to match the corner boards. And then, as I mentioned before, all the roof eave details match the existing. As far as the typical wall section, we have, just kind of working down, we're gonna have asphalt dimensional shingles on the roof. We're gonna have the beadboard finished soffit, as I mentioned before. We'll pay careful attention to the drip to make sure that soffit board extends past the end of the rafter tail so it doesn't rot out. And then we have the siding to match existing. And then the window details are on the previous page. But we're just doing 2x4 frame construction on a suspended wood floor with spray foam insulation. That works really good on these bungalows using a closed cell foam, because we have wood floors with the high moisture below and the dry cold air above. The wood floors tend to cup, so you need to have a good moisture barrier. So the spray foam, the closed cell spray foam is great for that. And then we just have the a masonry pier with the thin brick veneer. I don't have a sample with me, but we'll be matching the existing. The piers are actually painted, so they aren't any kind of natural red brick. A lot of houses in Seminole Heights, they didn't use red brick. They used this yellow brick, which is a very soft brick, and usually it was painted or stuccoed over after it started eroding away through the years. The section through the rear porch, the gable kind of matches the typical gable end on the front of the house. We have that vertical beadboard there, and then we have a little sill that matches the window sill as a termination or transition to the regular wood siding that comes down, and then the beam is sort of trimmed out like a window head casing. And then the porch has, we're just going to use like 5/4 by 6 boards. We aren't going to use the 3/4 tongue and groove. This is a south and west facing porch, so the sun would just, it would be a maintenance nightmare. So this is on the back of the house, not within the public realm. So we feel it's appropriate. And then we'll have the, 2x10 band that runs around, and then of course we'll have the brick clad piers. And then this is the other drawing that I did not have on my final exhibits when I submitted them previously, is the section through that side entry. So this is the main outside wall of the house, and then we step back. So that's it's sort of an existing 2x4 frame wall. But then we're gonna, and then this part down here is gonna have the vertical 1x4 beadboard, tongue and groove. Typical siding to match the rest of the house. This has the bracket or knee brace. You see a little bit here. That's actually the rafter beyond, because there's actually a hip rafter at 45 where it transitions from this roof to the eave beyond. And one of the things to note here is it's 2'6" and 2 feet as opposed to 2 feet. And I can go back to the roof plane and kind of show you why. And then again, wood steps, which will match the back porch. So a lot of times, and you see a lot in some heights, in Hyde Park, Tampa Heights, where you have a 2-foot overhang, and then suddenly you have side-facing gable. That gable has a 2-foot overhang. You have a 2-foot overhang on the eave, and it creates an odd transition from the barge rafter or fly rafter down to the eaves, especially if you have exposed rafter tails. So I found just by bumping out like 4 or 6 inches to do a barge rafter here creates a real nice, simple roof transition. And roofers like that because it makes doing the drip a little simpler. The window details are pretty typical. It's the same ones, y'all seen them before. It's because I do a lot of stuff in Seminole Heights, and all the windows are basically the same. But the important thing is what Delacosta used to call profile panning. It's getting the correct profile on a window as far as how far the trim sticks out and how far the glass steps back in that whole profile. So it's like you take a window, turn it on its side, and it's like a pan, so it's a profile of that pan. So that's important on the window detail. So we have the drip cap, we have the, we have the head casing, we have the side casing to match the existing, and then we have the larger sill with no skirt, just usually like a 3/4 inch trim below it, and then that's what it looks like in elevation. And then I didn't bring a whole window sample, but the windows that we're proposing are Sierra Pacific windows, and those are nice because they're it's the H3 series, so they have I know this is a contributing structure, but it's very difficult, if not impossible, to find wood windows, for these houses that meet all the codes as far as impact and wind loading. So considering this is all in the back of the house, this window is used a lot in the historic districts, and a lot of that's because of some of the details. Let's see if I can do this. And it's so on this. Let's see. So on the sash here, it has a basically like a putty glaze profile, and then it has a typical kind of a nice size sash, and then the rest of this are just added trim pieces, but we would use wood instead, similar to the details that I have. I'm sorry, I stepped away. It's similar to the details I have in the drawings. We have a couple of doors on the back of the house. This is a door that we use quite a bit. It's a very simple vinyl door, but it's really nice because it has a very slight wood grain to it, and it has what looks like the glass stop, typical of the doors, and you can kind of maybe see a little bit of the grain there in the glass stop. And again, this really isn't within the public realm. So, and then this is just a little cut sheet on the windows. And then the shingles, we're just going to go back with a pretty typical, dark or earthy color, dimensional asphalt shingles. And unfortunately, I don't have hardware. That's probably just going to be something like dark, oil red bronze, like on the house. And then, let's see, hardware lighting. And then also fencing. I didn't really address that. That's something I'm still working out with my client. We're going to have, at the end of that driveway, we're going to have a fence or a gate. So, right here. So hopefully the board will let us work that out with staff. And then I'm just going to look at the staff report to make sure I covered all the conditions that they had. I addressed the mechanical screening. We're doing that with the plant material. I talked about the window pattern at the bump out. The chimney, I talked about that. Information on the porch screening. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed on the floor plan, I had called it out as a screen porch, but on the elevations, it wasn't shown as a screen porch, so it's not a screen porch. I removed that note from these drawings. And then the wall section, we talked about that. And then the material palette, as I mentioned, we're lacking on a few of those, but hopefully the board will let us work that out with staff. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go on to the staff report now.
Thank you. Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. Staff finds that this application is consistent with the Seminole Heights Design Guidelines, and as the applicant addressed all the conditions that were listed, I have no further comments at this time, so I'm available for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn. If there's anyone here who would like to enter into the record public comment, please come forward at this time. Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and move on, and commissioners will begin asking questions. Anyone?
I have none right now.
Can you confirm the windows on the east wall, does the sill height match one of the existing windows?
Oh, okay. are you talking about these windows?
To the left,
Oh, over here?
in between those.
Oh,
Yep.
I see what you're saying, these windows and these windows. Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, these windows, yeah, I'm not sure why that's off. I remember this window being higher than this when I was doing the as-built drawings. And I think I was matching these windows to this window. We would certainly be open to the condition that we have the window head height and sills aligned with the existing windows. I'm gonna try and find a picture of that wall too, if I can.
No, you're right, you're off.
Yeah, this picture, you see the existing windows.
Can you
Yeah, I
throw
don't-
the floor plan up of the,
Master bedroom.
yeah, but I want to see what the rooms
the
are
floor
that
plan?
are, yeah,
Oh,
in
sure.
the existing, that correspond to the existing. I think so too, but I just want to, yeah. So the paired windows are bedrooms and the single is a utilitarian functional space, so, yeah.
Right, yeah, these windows, these are, they're 30-inch windows. Most of the windows in the neighborhood are either 30 or 32. But as you all know, we have to meet egress, although technically, as I'm looking at, we don't because we have a door there. But typically, we do, larger windows in bedrooms. And I think it would also help, part of, the Secretary of Interior standards differentiate new from existing. So I think if there is a little bit difference, maybe that's not that big of a deal. But again, we'll be open to any condition that y'all
Right.
feel is necessary.
Are you replacing any windows on the existing structure or only at the new construction?
Only in the new construction. Yeah, the only parts of the house that are being removed are parts that were not original to the house, and all the rest is going to remain.
And then the window selection, is that an aluminum clad wood window?
Yes, it is.
I don't have any other.
Following up on the windows, what is the light? Are you doing one over
Oh,
one?
they're all 1/1. It's shown on the elevations.
And then the operation?
Yeah, well, they'll probably be single hung,
Okay.
but I know double hungs are great, but typically they look exactly the same. So,
You have any questions, Commissioner?
I'm looking at the rear porch, and it seems like you're missing a column in the upper left side there. I was wondering if you had considered that.
yeah, leave it to the architect, right? So the upper left side, oh, right here.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this is 15'9", almost 16 feet, and this was 12 feet. So the reason I added these columns was to reduce the span and also give a little more of maybe a formal presence
Mhm.
to the rear. So that's why I did not have one there, but I do have a pilaster there. But it's one of those design things. I think it's fine without it, but we could also put one in if the board feels necessary.
you have a good explanation in that the dimension is less, therefore you're not
Yeah.
trying to reduce the span.
Right.
So, okay. And also, I wanted to ask about the fireplace that you seem to be reinstating.
Yeah, I'm glad, I didn't point that out. So this is kind of exciting. It appears the original fireplace is here. It was just covered up. And there's a door here. It does not appear there was an original door here. So a lot of people, I've worked with a lot of clients, they'll just take the fireplace out, and I'll try and talk them out of it. But my clients, they want to keep the fireplace. Whether it's operable or not, that's a whole nother question. But opening it up and having the natural brick on the back side is just such a great opportunity to keep, or to sort of show off or showcase some of the original fabric of the house. And then the best thing is it creates a very functional kitchen dining area as well.
Does the chimney go through the house from that fireplace?
That's a good question. No, it doesn't. I talked to my client, and the last time they had the roof done, they cut it off right below the roof deck. So it's not a functioning, like I said, it's not a functioning fireplace right now.
Okay. I have no questions. Anyone else? No? You have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Okay, yeah, my client just told me it wasn't them that cut the chimney off, the previous clients did. So, okay, so, all right, yeah, so I'm done, thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing and discuss the case.
I have a couple of notes, to add scoring at the drive-in parking pad. To finalize the foundation screen enclosure with staff, work hardware and lighting out. We've got a fence and gate that's still in question, and then just to update those windows, but I don't have any other glaring concerns.
So I agree with the windows. I think, look at the existing conditions. If it's utilitarian, maybe that helps you figure out where to align them. If it's not, align it with the other bedrooms. Big one for me is the chimney. I do not understand why you would cut off a chimney. It's a defining feature, and especially since already one's been cut off. Bungalows, traditionally, that's how you heated them, whether it was a fireplace or some sort of wood burning stove. It's not something that traditionally the board that, as I've sat on it, has allowed, so. It's an architectural feature.
As a contractor, I can understand the why.
If there was a
But-
structural report here right now that told me that it was a danger to the public, I would believe it.
Well, even, and the roof leaks and the different things that come along with it, but from an aesthetic standpoint and in a historic district, I agree with you,
And you can flash.
absolutely. So, you know, that is something that I would like to see stay.
Can you pull the site plan up?
I mean, I would love to see the plan up the old one go back through, but
So would I, but we can't ask for that.
it's on, I just, it doesn't pick me up.
So the chimney that remains is just in front of the AC unit in the screening, so you do see it from the street. And you can see it in the staff report imagery.
And they were typically a defining part of the type structure, you know.
Right. I understand that it's easier to roof something when there's nothing in the way, but unless it's failing and it's a danger to the public or the occupants, I just can't agree to that. Any other?
I think that's easily added as a condition.
Can we add that as a condition?
Yeah, we can, if everyone agrees.
What elevation is that? West,
Yeah.
okay. Do we have any other?
I had no other points that I recall.
I move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 22-181 for the property located at 405 East Idlewild Avenue with the following conditions: that scoring at the drive and parking pad are added, the foundation screen enclosure design is approved by staff, lighting and hardware is approved by staff, all fence and gate designs and locations are approved by staff, that the window head and sill heights on the east elevation are updated to match an existing window, and that the existing chimney on the west elevation is maintained. Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Seminole Heights design guidelines for the following reasons. That the scale, massing, alignment, and that the quality of the district is maintained.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, please state aye and raise your hands indicating so. Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Anyway.
Yes.
Commissioners, the third item on our agenda this evening is case ARC 22-75, located at 1909 North Florida Avenue. This is located in the Tampa Heights Historic District. This is a certificate of appropriateness application for new construction of an attached 3-unit, single-family building with an accessory structure and site improvements. This application is previously, the site has previously been before you for a rezoning recommendation, and that was approved by City Council from CI to RM24. And at this time, I'll move into the photo presentation here. So this site is addressed at 1909 North Florida Avenue. It is the, actually 1909 North Florida Avenue rear. It faces Ross Avenue. So the site is located, as you can see on this 1920 Sanborn map, not on Florida Avenue directly, but about one parcel into Ross Avenue from Florida. Florida runs to the west. It's the north-south street to the west, and Ross Avenue is the east-west street that the parcel is facing. This is the south end of the Tampa Heights Historic District map with the parcel shown in green. The red line is showing the local historic district boundary, and the blue line is showing the national historic district boundary. And this is the present-day aerial of the subject site, outlined in green again. Again, you can see it's about one parcel in from Florida Avenue to the west, and it's currently vacant. This is looking south into the subject site from Ross. This is a vacated alley that is part of the subject site. To the east, this is a non-historic new construction located in the historic district on Ross. And to the west, this is the property that is facing Florida Avenue. This is the historic structure that is across the street directly to the north on Ross, and the property adjacent to it also across the street to the north. This view is looking east along Ross, and this view is looking west on Ross toward Florida Avenue. And that concludes the photo presentation. So at this time, I'll have the applicant come forward to present the application.
Good evening. As you know, this was a continuance from 2 months ago. I believe all four of you were here previously, so I won't get into too much prior detail, other than that we did make some significant changes, which I think will make everyone happier about the case of the project. Just a quick review. Basic site plan hasn't really changed. Again, north is this way with Ross Avenue, still doing, of course, 3 units. One of the biggest changes we talked about was changing the undulation of the porch to more directly match what's going on the second floor, which that shows. We added some more scoring, of course, as directed. And again, I'll just go through these quickly just because we want to get the elevations. First floor again, second floor, which has remained the same. And then we'd have changed the roof orientation and design quite significantly. So we'll start there. So in previous, we had a large gable that kind of ran front to back over the property. We've since decided to do a modified hip design for the main structure with, of course, these gables and the shed roof facing the front to give us delineation and detail of the roof forms. We've simplified the front porch dramatically, reduced the amount of columns, made them fatter and larger, and spaced them further apart. We used to have doubles, little thin columns, which, again, I think has really cleaned up this facade. So then when you look at the west elevation, you have this hip, which is this same 12-10 pitch on the front. It continues on the back, on the sides, I'm sorry. And then on the rear, again, the same thing happens here on the east side, east elevation. And then on the rear, what we have are these two bump outs that are overhanging the rear porch area. We've reduced those impact by lowering the pitch, but everything is essentially hip roofs on all sides except for, again, the front. And the front, those two double gables, which are the most prominent feature of the front. And then again, we used to have little gables here and here and here. We've gotten rid of that. What we're really trying to do, I think, here is to try and create a single expression. Even though it's a 3-unit townhouse, we really wanted to give it that single family appeal in its scale and massing and its approach to the design. Just to quickly review, we also did have gable ends on the accessory structure. We have changed that to hips with only two small gables facing south into the alley, which again I think simplifies the design, cleans the design up. And then you can again see those same ends of the accessory structure on the other elevations. Same details as previously on all the fenestration. All that is really not changed. But what we have done is, again, the front porch we've simplified without the gables. We've also brought what was on the second floor down to the first floor, and so you can, that expression of the massing is expressed on the first floor. All of these are kind of typical details for using a 2x6 wall or a 8-inch masonry and recessing all of the windows so that it has a more historic character. And these are all pretty typical. We looked at those last time. This is a general rendering. Not everything is perfect here, but it's pretty close. The roof would be a 5V crimp, galvanized aluminum. This shows it slightly darker than it would probably really be. The one unique feature, of course, we've been toyed with is we do have a brick base around the entire porch, and we are looking at doing a brick centerpiece here. I know we can talk about that. We were trying to, again, break up the scale and create a single family house appeal. Just going through, so this is an aerial of kind of our block and the block to the north. You can see we have significant houses all within our block is here. This house and this house have actually very similar roof forms in the way of a combination of hips and gables with really a small mansard at the top. And then this is a more of a flat view of that. Same here. This is our structure, approximate size and location of it with its accessory structure, and then the other surrounding roofs and scale and massing of those houses. Some other similar houses and or properties. That one is next to Lee's Grocery. It's an existing duplex. This is, of course, a one under construction, which is a triplex. This is one of the houses I just showed you on the aerial. Similar in massing with hips and gables. This was approved by this board about a year ago. Much bigger project, but this is about 2 blocks south. Another townhouse, 9-unit, approved by this board a little bit east of that. House next door, which we've looked at previously, and this is a large accessory structure about a half a block to the east. Again, a 5V crimp metal roof would be the material. We'd have bead-boarded, non-vented soffits and fascias, all hardy board, essentially. Smooth hardy board, and kind of a lighter red brick. Patio floor would be concrete, patio roof would be T&G. Stain. Large 2/2 windows with similar 2/2 doors and side lights. That's all represented in the elevations. Garage door with some carriage house added pieces. Again, this faces the alley. Sconces and hardware, all either black or oil rub bronze. Again, 2 other projects of even much higher density than we're proposing. A block or 2 south. The civic window we're proposing is a double hung vinyl window sash, very similar to a traditional window. The only difference is it's not as deep pocket. That's why we recessed it 2 inches. But this is a let's see, the brand is Sierra Pacific. So in very quick review, the biggest thing we of course change is the roof form, and then the detailing of the front porch, and I think it presents a more compatible solution to what is really adjacent to this lot on 6 or 7 different directions, a very compatible design. And you have anything to say? With that, I'll take questions.
Actually, we will go to the staff report. Sorry, we'll go to the staff report now.
Thank you. Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. Staff found that this application is consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines, and we did meet with the agent here to review the drawings in between the last hearing and tonight. So with that, I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lund. Anyone from the public here that would like? I don't see anybody. So we'll go ahead and move forward, and the commissioners will ask questions at this time. Any questions?
I'd like to ask a question about the brick. Did you actually look, did you do an elevation that shows just a continuation of the regular siding?
Yeah, so we had some discussions with staff and the client, and, you know, we're kind of on the fence about the brick, but we like that ability, and this recesses a little bit, to kind of give that gives it a unique character. I know it's somewhat, you know, maybe unique, but that's why we chose it, I guess.
No further questions?
Can you review briefly the different pitches of the roof line?
Sure. So the standard pitch on the front here, which is also then translates into the main mass of the structure, is a 12-10 roof pitch here. And then we have a 6-12 roof pitch, mainly only on the rear, which is also the same roof pitch as the accessory structure, which is here. And then we have 3-12 roof pitches on the front porch and the rear porch. And then this pitch of the shed, I'm not 100% certain what that pitch is, but I think it's around a 5-12 pitch. And those are all the roof pitches.
And then you also have the mansard at the top, is that right?
Yeah,
Unseen
so
that right?
the mansard will be unseen. That is nearly flat. It's like a, you know, half-inch roof pitch. It would be a different material. It'd be a TPO or something.
Can you bring that elevation sheet just down a little bit so we see the top of the west elevation?
Yep, like that. There you go.
Thank you.
So there are two houses across the street that do very, very similar things. Again, this is pretty typical. Oh, not typical. There are a lot of older houses in Tampa Heights that have some version of this, where there's a flat part of the house in the middle of it.
What is the material for that?
So that would be a TPO material. You wouldn't be able to use a metal roof. It's too flat.
Or a modified bit.
Yeah, yeah.
TPO or modified bit?
Yeah,
any
two-
choice yet?
Well, either what you said, I think the ideal scenario would be, because you can get a gray TPO, so we'd want the roof that was there, even though, as he's pointing out, that there would be very little to no ability to see that.
No.
We'd want to make sure that the material would be the same color, so that if there was any appearance, that it would be uniform.
Excuse me, can you please state your name for the record?
Oh, my apologies. My name is Stephen Ashkenazi, and I'm the owner of the property.
Thank you. So it sounds like TPO is the way that you want to go.
That is currently the best building product for this type of application.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
You showed us an exterior fan, I believe. Where is the proposed location for that?
Okay, yeah. That's only in the rear porch areas, not in the front.
And then, can you just confirm you are showing like small transom windows over top of the front elevation windows?
Yes, you are correct. These here and these transoms here and here those are all small windows. Clear story transom windows.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, I have one more question. One of staff's comments was to incorporate fenestration into the west elevation of the accessory structure. Is that something that you would consider?
West, yeah. So this wall here, it's really behind the YMCA building, but if that's something that staff feels strongly about, I guess we could add a window.
Thank you. Sorry.
Back to the windows, there seems to be a lot of different styles and sizes. Is there a reason for that?
Well, there's I think only 4. I think that was a comment last time, and we tried to streamline them. But all the windows up front are the same window. The only difference is, of course, this one window here, and then on the sides, we have essentially, these are egress windows, so they have to be of a certain size. These windows are in the living room, so you want these tall, skinny windows. And then these two are smaller windows that are in smaller spaces, and then these are in bathrooms, I believe. So there's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, well, 5 with the front. It's a large structure, and we tried to make the windows appropriate to the placement, size, and scale.
I think that's all I have for now.
Other questions?
I have none.
Can we look at a floor plan of the first floor? I know we
Sure.
don't typically review those, but it would
Yep.
help with the elevation.
Not a problem.
What is in that first corner, the one that, what's the bottom left?
I haven't used one of these in a long time.
That's an office?
That's an office,
You're
that's correct.
indicating that's an office?
Yeah.
Is there a possibility or is there consideration that has been made for an additional window along that west elevation? And that would be true on the east side as well.
Yeah, I think if it was further up front versus, well, I guess I changed my mind. I think further back would, it's an office, so you're trying to leave yourself a place for a desk.
Yeah, I know, but it's a nice corner condition, and I have windows that make a relationship to the corner, and it's kind of nice when I can sit there and you've got a view to the street, and
No issues.
you can
Yeah,
also see
yeah,
people coming.
We're fine with that in the window, it's not a problem.
Okay, great. It's the only question I have.
Maybe this window.
Any other questions? No? You have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
I don't think we really have any rebuttal. I think we had some very good conversations with staff, both Elaine and Dennis, and I think that the redesign we made, I think, makes for a stronger solution, and I'm looking forward to seeing it get built. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and close the hearing, and commissioners will discuss the case. Any points? I do want to start by saying I think it's much better. It reads better, it feels better. It's more accommodating, I think, to the street and the neighborhood. So job well done getting it to this point. To both of you. Any points?
I'm still seeing things to me that are just fighting each other again.
I think there's some oddities with the brick being thrown in the middle unit.
You got windows with transoms, windows without transoms, skinny windows, fat windows.
So, yeah, there might be a touch too many window types, but I do think that there is something to the majority of the windows. You can see a window type, and sometimes it's single, sometimes it's paired, sometimes it's triple. I would think that the tall, skinny ones are probably the most out of place for me.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the elevations, the front and the two sides, in relationship to one another.
We got a window there.
Yeah, sorry.
I really feel like they are appropriate to the use behind them. And the tall, narrow windows occur only on the far back on the sides of the building and not at the front. I'm not so concerned about them.
Honestly, what I read here is there's at the front elevation, for the most part, there is a single window type, and it's being used as single, and then the triple. So for me, the front facade is starting to read more legibly, and I think the move away from the board and batten and trying to be more consistent with the idea of a gable end and not trying to pop it into the entry porches is really bringing this back from confusion for me, at least from the street side. And then from the two side elevations, I understand the immensity of that. I mean, that's pretty typical when you're talking about apartment type buildings, whether they're historic or not. You get into that expanse, and so how do you deal with that? You certainly can't pimple it with a lot of windows unless that's your design intent, and this is a more historic reference. So having a variety based on function, utilitarian versus maybe more grand spaces, I understand the language, I think. But the brick in the middle on the first floor, it just seems so foreign. This is not a colonial typology to me. So I get the brick on the base. That makes sense, and if you want that, then why doesn't it continue up the middle to the second floor? So.
But if it were to do that, I think it would, then it would get really nasty.
I agree.
So-
I think it's just foreign. I don't think it belongs.
And there is certainly a lot of precedent for just big frame vernacular buildings. And certainly the way that you have arranged the porch follows that tradition. The big, long porch on the front of this long frame vernacular.
There's going to be a nice porch party on this porch. Any other thoughts?
Is everyone comfortable with all of the roof pitches?
I am. I think that because they're mostly the same on the front. I think there's, I think the shed roof over the front porch is a. I can't say anything. Okay, I'm looking at you, but you can't say anything. Yes, that's right. Thank you. But I think that they're very reasonable for the locations that they're in.
Yeah, I think they tie together when you start to move around the various elevations. You really don't notice the difference until it's pointed out. And I think in the rendering that we saw, you can, assuming that it was drawn correctly, it feels like there's a comfort there. So,
Would you mind putting the rendering?
Sure.
Thank you.
yeah.
Form-wise, it's mostly accurate. There's only just a couple little roof things that are inaccurate.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the brick needs to go away. All right, any other thoughts, considerations?
You're looking at me.
I
We
just
have-
want to make
Anyone,
sure.
I know,
anyone want to?
I have no further
Okay.
conditions to
Okay.
suggest.
Move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 22-75 for the property located at 1909 North Florida Avenue rear, with the following conditions: that fenestration be added to the west and east elevations of the accessory structure, that windows are added to the east and west walls at the offices, and that the brick at the front facade is reconsidered. Because based upon the finding of fact, the project is consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines for the following reasons: that the setbacks, alignment, rhythm, and spacing, trim and details, and the quality of the district is maintained.
And do you understand the conditions set before you?
We do, we agree.
Thank you. Have a second?
I second.
All in favor, please say aye and raise your hands.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The motion carries 3-1. Congratulations.
Thank you.
adjourned.
Now continue with our regularly scheduled program.